Okay, so as far as the definition of colonization is concerned, colonization means large scale population movements where the migrants who migrate don't integrate into the society. The migrants maintain strong links with their ancestors from a colony. They maintain strong links with their country. Apart from that, they also have significant privileges over the other inhabitants, over the other native inhabitants of the territory. So when the colonialism takes place, it is a physical displacement of a country, of one country onto the other. So literally one country squatting onto the other is colonialism. So this is called settler colonialism. So settlers entirely, they there is also, I mean, it might also involve some disposition of earlier inhabitants. So it can be legal or the other structures. They make their own legal structures. They impose it on the local population. So this is the definition of colonialism.
Awesome. तो टीआई हम जब भी कॉलोनियलिज्म की बात करते हैं हम लोग हमेशा ब्रिटिशर्स की बात करते हैं राइट कि उन्होंने हमें कॉलोनाइज किया हम लोगों ने फ्रीडम फाइट किया एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा ये पूरा नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट जो है वो ब्रिटिशर्स को लेकर ही है क्योंकि हम उनको ही कॉलोनाइजर्स की तरह देखते हैं पर आपने जो डेफिनेशन अभी बताई है कॉलोनाइजेशन की उस हिसाब से आपको क्या लगता है कि जो इस्लामिक रूल था पूरा चाहे वो खिलजीज हो चाहे वो मुगल्स हो चाहे कोई भी हो जो भी इस्लामिक रूल था या कोई भी फॉरेन रूल था क्या उनको कॉलोनाइजर्स की तरह देखेंगे
Of course, first of all, English became the official language of India in 1835. 1835, when the British were actually at the helm of their power. That is when they passed English Education Act of 1835, and then English became the official language of India. Before 1835, the official language of India was not Hindi, it was not Urdu, it was not Hindustani, it was Farsi. What was the percentage of Indians who knew Farsi? Not even 1%. 1% is actually very much. There were particular scholars from a few communities like Kashmiri Pandit from Khatri, so who were actually employed, who had some experience and they were employed as traders or as accountants with the Mughals, the Kayasthas. Those companies had some knowledge of Persian. Apart from that, the general populace was completely ignorant of the language. It was a completely alien language, right? All we know about Farsi are a few loan words which have come down to us in our language. They have come down by borrowing. Other than that, it was a completely alien language. And this language, this alien language, was the official language of India for 600 years. This is, of course, colonization. Imagine having Mandarin tomorrow as the official language of India. Suppose if Chinese conquers us and imposes Mandarin upon the entire population for 600 years, and what is it if not colonialism? Then, as far as maintaining ties with the former homeland goes, of course, all the Indian surplus. This is not very well documented. This is not very well documented by the historians. This is not very well documented by our researchers because the establishment does not encourage this type of research. I will tell you what this type of research is. For example, take the case of Awadh Nawab. In 1844, the Shia Awadh Nawab of India actually sent 5 lakh rupees. Asaf Uddaula sent 5 lakh rupees. Why did he send it? He sent this money not for India, he sent this money to Najaf and Karbala in Iraq. Why? For the construction of dams, for the construction of canals, for the welfare of Iraq. Why? For the well-being of the Shia pilgrims, because those were the Shia sites. And then again, in the year 1799, he sent 20 lakhs again to Iraq. So 20 lakhs was quite a lot of budget. It was a very small kingdom. And in those days, 1 rupee of rice fetched 296 kgs of rice. 1 rupee fetched 296 kgs. So it was not, so the rupee had much more value in those days. And just imagine 25 lakhs sent just for pilgrims in a year. And this was not just Awadh Nawabs, is just an example. Take the case of Nizam of Hyderabad. Every year in his budget, there was a specification for Makkah and Medina. There was again a specification which he used to send to Afghanistan. Why did he send? No. There's no answer for it. Then there were some people known as, there was a movement known as Hindustani movement. So Hindustani movement believed that Islam in India was actually, it intermingled a lot with the Hindus, and uh, it lost its form. So this particular movement wanted to transpose pilgrims. I mean, it wanted to transpose Muslims to the other countries, to Iraq, to Saudi Arabia, and make them live among those people. So because the Indian Muslims have become, in their eyes, the Indian Muslims have become very impure. They've learned the manners and customs of Hindus, so they have to be purified again. And how do we do that? Transpose them back into the Arab countries, where they learn the Arab language, where they live with the Arabs, and then bring them back. Transpose them for 10 years. This was a project. So to completely de-Indianize and to completely Arabize the Muslims, they sponsored these projects. The Nizam of Hyderabad was very rich. I mean, in 1947, 1956, he was the richest man in the world. And he sponsored these projects. These were his yearly projects. This was apart from donations to Makkah and Medina. And the donations to Makkah and Medina were not just religious. He used to sponsor the projects. He used to sponsor the dams. He used to sponsor the canals. He used to sponsor the streets. And this was hard-paying tax money of Indians. I've given you the example of Awadh Nawab. I've given you the example of Nizam of Hyderabad. Take the case of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb used to send so much money to Makkah, to Medina, even to Jerusalem, even to Al-Aqsa Masjid. And very few people know that the gold plate there, that was all his donation. Why is he sending this money? He simply believes that those states, right, the surplus was always sent to Makkah, to Medina, to Baghdad, to Kabul. Babur was the first Mughal who actually sent his surplus back to Kabul. And research of this sort is discouraged. There is evidence all around, but this research is discouraged. This research is discouraged because the establishment is not very happy with this kind of research. So any prospective student, any prospective graduate, when he forwards such a thesis, it inevitably gets rejected and he has to drop it. That is why this research has not come up, and it is being suppressed by the establishment. So of course by this very definition they were outsiders, because they kept they kept strong links to their former nation. That is one. Plus, they had significant privileges over the other inhabitants. Of course, they had significant privileges. Uh, a trader was taxed 5%. A trader at port in Surat was taxed 5% in Mughal India. A Hindu trader, a Muslim trader was taxed only 2%. 2.5%. And this was a rule written in stone. This was not even a Mughal rule. This rule was from the days of Delhi Sultans. And it was simply inherited by the Mughals. And nobody protested against it because it was taken as the rule of the day. And so Hindus did not protest. And there were clear discriminations in tax. And in most of the rule, Hindus were not even allowed to ascend horses. They were not allowed to dress. They were not allowed to, they were not allowed to sit on throne. And when the jizya had to be offered, they had to bend before the person. They had to bend before the Maulvi and offer the jizya. So when they had to bend, they had to bend on their knees and they had to touch his feet. Then Maulana says, Zimmi, submit your jizya. So that is how they used to submit jizya. Now these rules, these were not aberrations. These were the rules of the polity of the Mughals, of the Delhi Sultans, of even the regional rulers, and they were written in stone. They were not to be changed. So yes, by this very definition, they had significant privileges over the other inhabitants, and they simply transposed their entire culture. There is no difference in the polity. The Urdu poets who were actually based in Lucknow, they praised the gardens of Isfahan. They praised the gardens of Cairo. They did not praise the gardens of Athens. So it was a complete transposition of the entire Islamic judicial system from the Middle East or Central Asia to India. So by this very definition, yes, it is a colonial rule. And this, it doesn't matter who the colonizer was, because it first began with the Arabs, right? The first invasion on Kabul was 654. That was when they began. And from that point onwards, in the early 8th century, we had Muhammad bin Qasim on Sindh. And then the Arabs established their principalities. In Sindh and Multan, they established two kingdoms. After the Arabs came waves of Turks. First, the Ghaznavids. The Ghaznavids were just invasionists. They were interested only in loot. They were not interested in permanent conquest. They were interested only in invading and conquering. Their only permanent hold, they held some power in Punjab. But outside of Punjab, Tabar Hind, that is today's Bathinda, was the border. And Ghaznavid Empire was lasted only until there. But the second wave, the Ghorid wave, actually established permanent rule on India. Then came the Turks. Then the Khiljis, then the Lodhis. The Lodhis were Afghans. Then the Mughals, and finally even the Awadh Nawabs and Nizam. So these were employees, these were foreign employees. These were Khurasani employees under Mughal payroll. And once the Mughal authority at the center became very weak, they established themselves in their regional centers. But they were also essentially foreign. So yes, this entire rule was foreign. And it was foreign to such an extent that yes, today Urdu is identified with Muslim culture, yes, but the fact is, before the 20th century, to be very honest, even before independence, Urdu was not identified with Muslim culture. It was always Persian. Urdu was looked down upon, even Urdu, because of its indigenous roots. Urdu was looked down upon. For example, uh, there was Salar Jung, and a Hindustani Maulvi asked Salar Jung of Hyderabad. He suggested that Persian, because Persian was the official language of Hyderabad, and he suggested that Urdu instead of Persian be made the official language. To which uh, he was simply very furious. He raised up from his throne. He threw the Maulvi down. And he held his neck and he said, "You Hindustani people, you have little practice in Persian speech. Persian, you know what Persian is? Persian is the symbol of victory of Muslims. We have conquered this land with our sword, and we have destroyed this country with our sword. So, do you want darkness here? No, we will not allow that. Persian will flourish here as long as Islam is alive." This is what he said. This is the reality of native Muslim rule. And this person, the person who actually uttered this, had a lot of Indian blood. The blood never mattered. Aurangzeb had a lot of Indian blood, right? But he, in his works, Aurangzeb said that Hindustanis are idiots. He did not identify himself as Hindustani. Mughals first came in 1526. 1526 was the first battle of Panipat, that is when they came. And Aurangzeb lived until 1707. So it was more than 180 years. Yet, he did not identify himself as Hindustani at all. And he believed that Hindustanis were idiots. Even when the poet of Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, he wrote a book after Mehroma, he wrote a book in praise of the Mughal dynasty, of the Taimurid dynasty. Even the last Mughal emperor identified himself as Taimuri, and he said Hindustanis were his subjects. He never identified himself as Hindustani. And Hindustani here does not mean just Hindu, it also means Indian Muslim. And the Mughals, until the last Mughal, never identified themselves as Hindustanis. These are hard facts. So there is the Mughal rule or the foreign Muslim rule is undeniably colonial. There is no question about it.
Thank you, TI. So yeah, basically इन लोगों ने